fabulous, brilliant Steve Skrovan from Everybody Loves Raymond and Seinfeld, and he's going to talk about scripted laughter. So this is a Steve Skrovan's sitcom masterclass.
Okay, where do you want to begin?
Well, you've been on all my podcasts. I love you as a guest. You're like the best guest. You're so fun, and you're kind of. I feel like you're like such a people like comedian. You know, you're like you're supportive of younger talent. When I say younger, it's like newer talent. Yeah, not younger.
Yeah, that's everybody.
No, stop it. That's how I feel too. It's like everybody's younger than me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even like my older cousins are younger.
I have no choice to be supportive of younger talent because I'm old.
You're not old. Stop saying that. You're not old. Oh, age is just the body's age, but the soul is not old. Your soul is not old at all.
You know what my friend Ralph Nader has said, that the only true sign of aging is the erosion of one's ideals.
Ooh, I like that. And that's so true.
It's that and loss of bladder control.
That's the other
true sign. Yes.
That too.
The only difference is that when you lose your ideals, you don't have to change your pants. So the choice is yours.
Absolutely. I like that. Let me think about that one. I'm going to really ponder on that. Marinate on it.
No, don't say marinate.
Why not?
Because I'm talking about wetting your pants. I have to explain the jokes.
I know you have to. You have to. I've been talking and watching stuff for like 5 hours, Steve.
Please. And those phones must be ringing, people. Please. Grace has been talking for 5 hours.
I know.
But that's not unusual for you, is it? Really, in real life?
I don't know. I'm not a talker. Like I do talk when I have to, but like on an everyday situation, no, I'm like pretty quiet. Like I do my thing, don't bother anyone. If I see a friend that I haven't seen in a long time, then yes, yap. But
yeah,
that's it. Yeah, no, I'm kind of like chill, believe it or not. I don't feel like I'm chill, but I am. I'm very chill, very even keeled too, which is weird because I don't, get that vibe from myself, right? When I'm on the stage, like I'm not like, I'm more like passionate on the stage, but in real life, I'm like, just very chill. Yeah. How about you? You're chill too, aren't you?
Yeah. I actually very, very similar. I come alive more on the stage.
Yeah.
And I've been told that too.
Yeah. It's a lot of comics are like that. They're like just chill. And then when they go on the stage, it's like they get their freak on or something, it's like just.
And I know probably just as many who are the opposite, who are
really,
well, not the opposite. I wouldn't say the opposite, but they are either on all the time.
Ooh,
or
that's exhausting.
It can be exhausting, sure.
Yeah.
Or they're not as funny on stage as they are off stage. I know some people like that too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know some people, who are, boy, if you could just bring that to the stage.
Right.
But they're hilarious off stage. Yeah.
And
there's something on stage that makes them sort of button up, and it's formal and it's in front of an audience and everything. And that kind of takes away some of the spontaneity that they exhibit off stage.
Yeah. Maybe they're judging themselves also, because that's one thing that's very common, right? When you go up on the stage, you're judging yourself, and you have to let go. When you go on the stage, it's like, exactly. You're like watching. It happens like, I know it happened to me when I started. It was like the critic was like, shut up. You're not saying it right. Say it again.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. And so I just curse it out. That's what I do. That's how I got that critic away from my space. I cursed it out and I was like, listen, right now, I don't need you. Later, maybe when we can like refine the jokes, but I curse out intrusive thoughts. I'm a big fan of cursing out things that don't benefit.
What do you mean? You literally cursing?
Literally.
Like,
I can't say it because of YouTube. F off is like, and it goes away.
Get the F out of here. Yeah, go away.
Like it's a person.
Yeah.
Because in a way, a thought to me is an entity.
Okay.
I see it as an entity.
Yeah.
Like it's trying to get into my head. And if it's a thought that will harm me, I just like, go away.
Go away. Demon out.
Yeah. 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 So
Exercise it.
Yeah, I think the Catholic Church kind of taught me that.
Yeah.
I went to a Catholic school when I was young. I wanted to be a nun. Did you know that?
I did not know that. How long did you want to be a nun?
From 9 to 11, and then I quit on it. I was like, not as fun.
You didn't get to your final vows at 11?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't make it.
12 years to Catholic school myself.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that's why I have still have a very good cursive style.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So every time I have to write on one of those, where they make you write your signature at the store with your finger, I just think of, Sister Mary Floriana going, "Oh my God,
no,
what happened?
You're doing your F's wrong."
It's just,
Yeah, it's traumatizing.
Because I take great pride in that. And my whole family did. My dad had very good handwriting. My mom did. My grandmother had excellent handwriting. And so it's a family thing, I guess. We take pride in that.
I love it. You became a writer, but now we type. So it's like...
Yeah, well, and it's gone to hell because of that. Keyboarding. Yeah. It's not as good.
Do you think, I read there's something like if you write with your hands, there's a connection between your brain and your hand that is more beneficial for writers than typing. Do you believe in that?
I believe it. Yeah. I think the benefits of modern word processing programs now outweigh that. Like my son's a writer and he will write things out in longhand, and he has that connection. And that makes sense. Just mind body theory. But I just like the flexibility of being able to write something and then just make it disappear or put it aside very easily and then copy and paste it back in, or that's more freeing to me than having to think about committing to writing it. It's possible that when you commit to writing it, or like typing it even on an old typewriter, that you maybe think a lot more before you write. So maybe that's the other side of that. But I'm not a Luddite in that way. I'm not I don't have any nostalgia for writing in longhand. Larry David, who I worked with on Seinfeld, he wrote it in longhand.
Really?
And then when somebody would type it up, he probably still did. It's probably still does.
Interesting. So that worked for him. So different things work for different people, which is...
Yeah, and that's just a lot of it is just what you're used to doing. And if you don't want to change your program, so to speak, then you do what you've always done. I mentioned Ralph Nader before. I do a radio show with Ralph, and he does everything on a manual typewriter. He's written, I don't know how many scores of books.
Wow.
And all of his columns, he does it all on a manual typewriter.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. For me, what works best is like laptop. I don't know why. I guess, you know, when I went to college, when I got my MBA, it was all computers, just typing. And so I got used to it. And that's what works for me more than just that by hand doesn't work anymore at all.
I'm older than you. So when I was in college, I would write papers in longhand. And my roommate had the cutting edge. He had an electric typewriter, IBM Selectric, with a Correcto cartridge. And that was like the height. This is in the late 70s. That was the height of technology, where you could actually erase some, word, or, you couldn't erase big blocks of things, but, word or a phrase by just putting in the Correcto type on this electric typewriter. And that was like, wow. And now you look at that, it's like, my God, it was just after they invented the wheel.
Right? Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about sitcoms. So how do you develop authentic, multidimensional characters that drive both the humor and heart of a sitcom?
Did you read that question, Grace?
I totally read it. I'm doing 8 hours, Steve. Do you think I'm going to memorize or improvise everything? No. Give me a break, please.
How do you create characters that do what?
Authentic, multidimensional characters that drive both the humor and heart of a sitcom.
Well, You should find somebody who actually does that, because no, I
Oops, wrong
I have
person.
failed miserably at that. No, um, what I do, I work a lot from real life. Is coming up as a stand-up, where you're used to mining your own thoughts and mining your own life and your own experiences. That and it's easier than making shit up.
Yes.
The So it's just about it's a kind of a general question, because it all depends. A story idea can come from anywhere. It can come from a character. It
Mm-hmm.
can come from a plot
Okay.
idea, or it can come from a theme. And sometimes you start with most of the time you start with either a plot or a character or an incident. And but if you're trying to create a sitcom, then usually, I mean, the ones I've been involved with have usually been around a character. Like my first writing job was on Seinfeld. That was Larry David taking Jerry Seinfeld's character,
Yeah.
adding his own as George Costanza, and being a surrogate for Larry, and then adding other people they knew, the next door neighbor that Larry had in Manhattan Plaza when he was doing stand up in the in the 70s and 80s. And then Everybody Loves Raymond, which was based on Ray Romano's act and based on his life situation, combined with Phil Rosenthal's own life situation, especially with regard to his relationship with his parents.
Mm-hmm.
And you put those two things together, and they put those two things together, and it made a whole fulsome show. But it was all based on real people,
Right.
and getting to the essence of these real people, finding makes them what makes them tick, and then just what makes people human,
Right.
and what is human will be funny. And so that's kind of what I was raised on in my career, was sort of sticking to what is real, what would really happen, and extrapolating from that. You have a story idea, and you can, and it in real life maybe it didn't go very far, but you
Yeah.
knew it was a conflict, and I'll give you an example. On a Raymond episode I wrote, I was and TV sitcom, it's usually small things.
Yeah.
And humor itself, it tends to be about the little things in life. That's why series television is probably the best format for comedy. Movies are a different thing. Movies have to be about big things, big events, and so that's why most of your famous comedy movies are very broad, or they're about cross dressing. Some Like It Hot. They get dressed up as women and hiding out in a female band, or Tootsie, where Dustin Hoffman becomes a woman, or Ghostbusters, where it's a monster going through uh, New York City. And so those are hard to do,
Yeah.
because those are big things. But most of what makes us laugh are the little things in life, and that's why series television is most adept at conveying that. So this example I'm giving will be a small story. What happened was, my wife and I, in our primary bedroom, there's only one sink in the bathroom, and we're getting ready for bed one night, and she's at the sink in her bathrobe, and I just kind of reach around behind her to grab a toothbrush, or maybe put the toothbrush back, I forget. And she had her back to me, and I just saw her shoulders just heave. She just went like this. And we've been married a long time,
Yes.
and together even longer. And in that sigh was an entire monologue. And so she sighs like that. And I go, "Oh, so I suppose you want to, I should probably get my own bath. I should probably go down and share the bath down the hall, share the bathroom with the kids." And she turned around and had this just ingenuous look in her face, and she said, "Would you?" Like,
Your wife, I love her.
look, would you? And it completely disarmed me because I wasn't, I was expecting more of a, an argument, but
Yeah,
she was she needed, I could tell she needed this so bad. She just needed
yeah.
her own bathroom. So I grabbed my toothbrush and my shaving stuff, my little, I just had a little, and I went down the hall to the kids' bathroom, which is like the Poseidon Adventure. It's
No,
just water everywhere. It's just
no.
it's like an open air car wash, that place. And settled, that's where I was. And to this day, I'm still there. So I had that idea, and I came into the Raymond writers room with that idea, and I explained the sigh, and everybody kind of got it. The married people understood that in the sigh was a lot of history, and that was it. And I just went to that bathroom, and that was it in real life. But for the story, I thought, okay,
Yeah.
this is the story. So what do I do next? So the whole thing plays out. The first scene plays out just like I explained to you. And then I say, okay, the next scene is he goes to the kids' bathroom, and it's like a disaster. It's water world. It's the
Yeah,
disaster area.
yeah.
He's stepping on action figures, and there's
Oh, no.
puddles everywhere, and that's where he can't. So I said, okay, he can't be there. So the next morning, we find him at the kitchen sink downstairs, shaving into the toaster, using the toaster as a mirror. And his brother and I have Frank and Robert, his brother and his father, walk in on him as he's shaving, and he doesn't have a bathroom, so he's
Oh
shaving in
my
the kitchen
God.
sink of the beer. This is now all the made up part. Now I'm just taking it. What if? That's the big question when you're writing a story: is what if, or what happens next?
Yes.
And so that's what I thought. Okay, so he'll go to the kids' bathroom. That's untenable. He's gonna, be shaving in the kitchen sink. That's where another sink is. And then what could be the worst could happen? That's the other question you always ask. You ask two questions: what if, and what is the worst that could happen? That's usually, I definitely learned that from Larry David, because his his whole world is everybody on their worst behavior and catching you in and most comedy. I mean, it's just a comedy
Yes.
staple. So that his brother and his father walk in on him, and they start giving him hell about, giving up the throne. That's his throne, and he has abdicated his throne. He is the king of the house, and look
Yeah.
at you, look at where you are. And they just deride him for just being a second-class citizen in his own house. So he decides, okay, so what happens next? Okay, so he's going to go back, being cursed by his brother and his father. He's going to reclaim his throne, and he goes back into the bathroom. And just over that one day, his wife has turned it into a feminine palace.
No.
Everything that she's ever dreamed of in a bathroom. And he goes up, and she's so excited to see him. Look what I did. I did this over here, and I've got this over here. And look, I even got a shower head with an adjustable shower head. And he doesn't have the heart to take that away from his wife. And
Oh.
so what's he going to do? He's going to have to, I don't know, be with the kid. He's going to have to find some other accommodation. And that's me extrapolating. And the story ends with, I mean, it kind of goes where he's made this sacrifice for his wife. And when you come back in the second act, he's in his office, which is in the basement of the house. And she comes in and starts talking to him while he's working, and kind of sits on his desk and, kind of, just chatting. And he decides he's going to give her a signal like she gave him. And he sighs. He goes, but she doesn't pick up on it. And she keeps chatting away and moving stuff around, and but now he feels she's crowding in on his space. So he sighs again. And she doesn't pick up on it. He sighs like a third time and finally explodes and says, look, you sighed one time and I no longer have a bathroom. I'm here. You're in my only little space here. And I've sighed like 3 times. And then they have this argument. And she gets all upset and goes up into her palace, into her feminine palace. And he goes up the stairs after her. And she's upset and he's upset, and they continue their argument until she tells him, get out of my bathroom. And he says, make me. So she grabs the adjustable hose that she just got on the shower head and like points it like a gun and says, you better get out. He says, she says, oh, I would. Oh yeah. And she's, of course, and they have a water fight. So that's what I knew when I knew that beginning that I described to you about the scenes about being exiled from his bathroom and then going up to and not being able to reclaim it. And when I had set it up that she has this adjustable new shower head, because I knew I wanted to end it, have a climax with a water fight.
Yes.
And that's what happened. It was very funny. It's very physical. And it was, but it was only, extrapolating from that sigh.
Wow. Just one sigh created all this. It's incredible.
And I learned that. I mean, I had 2 great mentors in both Larry David and Phil Rosenthal on Raymond, who were just, fabulous showrunners and really knew how to craft stories. And the one thing that I took away on Seinfeld, which was my first job back in the early 90s, was a thing that Jerry called surfing on the premise.
Yeah.
Which is you take a small thing. And the small thing in the case that I always recall in this was one time Larry coming into the office and going, every morning I come in and I park next to a handicap spot. And I was wondering what would happen if one day I parked in that spot. And from that little tiny notion, what became a famous episode for Seinfeld called The Handicap Spot. And so he creates the story where the gang goes to a store and it's a very crowded parking lot. And they decide we're just going to run in. So we're going to park in a handicap spot. So then you think what I was telling you before, okay, what would happen next? And what's the worst thing that would happen next?
Yes.
Well, a handicapped person can't park in that spot. So they go somewhere else and they get hurt as a result of not being able to park in that spot. In the case, they decided that she had to park on the side of a hill and she was in a wheelchair. She gets out of the wheelchair, out of the car, and careens down the hill and crashes and has to go to the hospital. So from there, they go, okay, what would happen next? Well, they feel bad about it and they find out who the woman is, and George and Kramer visit her in the hospital. And okay, what could happen there? Well, they decide that Kramer is going to fall in love with her. But they also decide that they need to get her a new wheelchair. So that leads to a scene where they go to a wheelchair salesman who's like a used car salesman who, the famous line from that came from my friend Bob Shaw, who pitched the line where the guy's talking about all the options that this wheelchair has. He says, I put Stephen Hawking in one of these things and he's loving it. And it goes on from there. But that's how you take that tiny notion and just surf to the next thing, to the next scene, to the next scene. That's what Jerry called it, surfing on the premise.
I love that. It's kind of like improv. Yes. And yes. And the script.
Well, it's funny because I was thinking about this, most actors, when they get interviewed about a movie they did or TV show, they're always asked, how much have you improvised? And usually it's zero.
Wow.
It's maybe there's a piece of physical business. We used to love it if anybody on the stage came up with something, not necessarily a line, but something.
Yeah.
Or the director came up with something. but usually, at least in our case, it very tightly scripted.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the actor doesn't bring it to life and add their own thing to it
Yes.
and enhance it. But it got me to thinking, because I was at a film festival a couple weeks ago, and that question was asked of an actor who was in this film: how much did you improvise? And I just had rolled my eyes, and I got up and left as they talked about how much they improvised. And
You're like,
and I thought, the act of writing is exactly what you're saying. It's an act of improvisation, because it's a true act of improvisation, because you
Exactly.
have a blank page in front of you. And that's exactly kind of the attitude you have to have, or the questions you need to ask yourself is it's yes and, or in the case of what I learned in comedy, the lesson was, what is the worst thing that could happen next?
Yes, absolutely. The worst thing and the most unhealthy thing, because that's comedy, right?
Well, it's just that's conflict, and that's what drives the
Conflict. Yes.
story is conflict. And then the conflict can become you can have conflict that's dramatic and serious. You have conflict that's funny, and if something is inherently funny, like
Yes.
a guy being exiled from his bathroom,
That it's
and he's
exile
like,
from its bathroom.
yeah, it's like the king who's lost his castle. Then
Yeah.
that is an inherently funny sort of analogy, which are most jokes are. Most jokes are analogies of some kind. This is like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Love that. See, one question that I had written down, it led to all this beautiful just
That's
exposition
because
of,
I talk a lot.
you do. You're great. See, all I have to do is just throw a question and you just run with it and
Yeah.
make it like amazing. So yeah. See, this is why I wrote the questions too. But we can improvise too. See, is yes and it's like I do that in my stand-up. I do that. I
Yeah.
have like a cheat sheet on the side where with
Yeah.
my little bullet points. And then all of a sudden I might improvise for like 5 minutes with the audience or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back, So it's like the interview, I treat it the same way.
Yeah.
Where I do have, you have to have your little ammunition of questions in case you're like, what should I ask now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm
within that, yeah, then the conversation takes its natural course. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, but it's a conversation starter. So thank you for that. Was brilliant. I love it. And now I want to ask you, in your view, how has the evolution of television and the rise of streaming platforms impacted the art of sitcom writing?
It would changed it a lot in
Yeah,
certain respects. Um, sh- Streaming, because they would drop all of the shows at once and they could be binge watched.
right.
It became much more of a sequential storytelling, where you have to have a cliffhanger to bring them back for the next, whereas shows like Seinfeld, Raymond, all those classic sitcoms of the, from the, 50s through to the streaming era, were generally all self-contained. You
Yeah,
didn't need to see the episode before to understand the episode you were watching. And now that's different. And so it becomes much more like movies. Like
that is so true. Yeah,
there's an arc,
yeah.
and the example I give would be Ted Lasso.
Okay.
And Ted Lasso is a story about this, very sincere guy from the Midwest, American from the Midwest, goes to England to coach this team, and everybody wants him to fail, and everybody around him is cynical, and
Yeah,
he's just ingenuous and open, and he converts everybody. He turns it becomes contagious. And I think one of the reasons people really latched onto the show is because it was the right moment for that in the Trump era, where everything was kind of dark and
mhm,
cynical,
yeah,
and this guy was converting everybody. And so, if you think about his relationship with the owner of the team wants him to fail so that she can
mhm,
get back at her ex-husband, who used to own the team, and that's the love
yeah,
of his life, and she wants to destroy the love of his life. but then he kind of wins over these players who know he knows nothing about soccer, and wins over other coaches, and they start winning, and they cohere as a team, and they have this sign that says believe, and it's all very, this he's like this spiritual guru for everybody. And by the final episode, I think it was just 10 episodes, the owner is now, they're all best buddies.
Yeah.
And so the problem with that is where's season 2? Because that was basically a 10-part movie with this arc that concluded with him converting everybody. And now that everybody's converted, where is the conflict? And so season 2 was it was still okay, but it was not as good as season 1. Now, a season 2 in your traditional sitcom with all the self-contained episodes, season 2 is the season we all looked forward to. Yes. It was your best season. It was the most fun season usually, because you spent season 1 kind of getting to know the characters, getting to know what the actors could do best, which relationships are really clicking, and you kind of found the show. You generally find the show in season 1. So that season, and you also haven't done all the stories yet. So now season 2 is great. Now we've got this foundation. We know what everybody can do. We can now, and we haven't done all the stories yet. So season 2 is easier in that sense, right, because you're building off of that. Season 2 in a streaming sequential storytelling is like doing a sequel to a movie. And we know how hard it is to have a good sequel to a movie. There are very few that are as good or better than the originals. They're just kind of rehashes.
Yes.
And so by season 3 of Ted Lasso, they had no conflict, and it was just this kind of a soap opera about who's going to hook up with who, and people loved it because they fell in love with these characters.
Right.
But it was, they couldn't do season, there was nothing left to explore. So to answer your question in the short form, streaming made sitcoms more like movies, where there's an arc, it comes to an end, and then you got to come up with a whole nother arc. And that's very difficult. It's not impossible. It's very difficult to do. And for the writers, it's made it a lot harder to make a living, because we used to do, I remember in Raymond, we did 26 episodes in 1 year.
Wow.
You have a show like Barry from HBO, which was a great show.
Yes.
And they managed to have a good cliffhanger after each season. But that entire 4-season show was 24 episodes. Whereas on one single season of Raymond, 1 year, we did 26 and would generally do 22, and ended up all told doing 210. Whereas a great show like Barry, 24. Show like Ted Lasso, 30 or 25 or 30. And that makes it harder to make a living, which makes it harder for writers to get experience, which makes it harder for creatively for things to renew and other shows to be produced, because the writers just don't have the experience. I mean, I'm very lucky that just being born when I was, because it was really kind of the heyday of the form.
Absolutely. Do you think it's ever going to come back fully, or do you think that streaming services kind of killed it?
I don't know. I don't know what the business models. I'm not enough of a business person or a futurist to know what that future will be.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, I mean, the advantage to streaming was that you could do a more niche kind of show. When it was broadcast television or even cable, you needed to get the biggest audience.
Yes.
And so it had to be broadly appealing. With streaming, you could get a little niche audience, and maybe not, you're not going to get the numbers that you would have in broadcast television, but you would, get an audience. The subscription model versus the advertising model is the big difference. And I think there's really a ceiling on how many people will subscribe to your service. Whereas, because it's about, and that's why that's another reason why they don't pick up the shows for long runs. Because say you have a show on Netflix, it's not about putting asses in the seats. It's about getting new subscribers. Because in broadcast television, it didn't matter if it was the same asses in the seats. It was eyeballs on the advertising. And in the subscription model, there's a constant churn of new material because they're trying to pick off subscribers over here. Maybe this little pocket of people here will like this show. This little pocket here will like this show. And it's a harder, and then once they've got those subscribers, they don't need to do that show anymore. They need to find the next thing that'll get another pocket of subscribers. So I think that economic model, I don't know if it's sustainable. During the strike 2 years ago, I was talking to somebody who had been on the management side on the picket line, and she said it will probably go back to some sort of advertising model. It won't be the same.
Yeah.
As broadcast, but and I think you see this now too. You can get ad-free Netflix or ad-free
That's right. Yes.
YouTube or ad-free whatever.
Yes.
You pay a little extra, and because that's kind of what really drives it. That's where the money is. In the old days, all these shows were what they call deficit financed. A studio would invest a lot of money into a show, hoping it got to 100 episodes.
Yes.
100 episodes was the magic number for syndication.
Yes.
Where then it could be syndicated and run forever. I mean, that's why Raymond is still on. I mean, we shot the last show 20 years ago.
Wow. Oh my God. Wow.
And it's still on.
It is. Yeah.
I'm
it's
still
timeless.
Getting checks. Yeah.
It's just timeless.
Yeah. So, and that's because we did all those episodes, and it can, in comedies, people will watch over and over again. It's not like, the murder mystery show where you know who did it, and so it's not as big a deal. Or dramas where the plot twist is known.
Yes.
I mean, I think you enjoy the ride for a comedy. And now, I've been away from that show so long. Every once in a while, I'll see it on TV, and it'll be an episode that I wrote.
Oh, wow.
I'll go, wow, Ray's got himself into quite a pickle here. How did I get him out of that? Because I forgot.
You don't remember for real?
20 years, yeah. Well, I'll have some vague memory, but I go, what did we do on that? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So my last question to you is, what advice would you give to emerging sitcom writers? I can't even read correctly. My Latin tongue, when I'm tired, it just goes. I should ask. Can I ask you in Spanish? No, I'm kidding. What advice would you give to emerging sitcom writers looking to develop a distinctive voice in today's competitive landscape? What is your advice to them?
Well, I think you would say this to any artist, no matter what, whether it was sitcom writing or music or painting or whatever, is that, you write what you know, and you're never going to be able to predict trends or what's hot, or, sometimes agents will tell you this is what they're buying, this year. And by the time you write that, they're buying something else the next year. So write something that is close to you, that you know deeply, or have researched. This doesn't mean you have to have the lived experience, but something that you dive into and explore yourself and have fun in that environment. And it's that old adage of write what you know, write what's close to you, write from real life, real emotion, real events. And then you can always make up other events.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have some comments before we go. So here's James, my friend James. Hey, Shug, you know me, I'll be late to my own funeral. So he's, you just arrived at the right time. You've seen Steve. So hey, Steve, so glad to catch you on here with Grace. And he has some opinions on yes, but in ads versus subscriptions are adding ads in, and I think viewers will get subscription fatigue.
Yeah,
I agree.
Could be. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a limited number because you can't, it's finite.
Yeah.
Whereas people watching it over and over, that's infinite.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for always being so kind and saying yes to me. To my little crazy project.
Well, Grace, I admire you. You are a project person, and your ambition is inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so
You're
much.
always doing something.
Yeah, it's for me it's fun. So I'm all about the fun.
Well, you know what? That's the other thing I would tell young writers is when you're writing and do it, make it fun.
Yes.
When it's not fun, write something else. Do something else. When you can look up at the clock and you go, oh, 3 hours went by, I didn't even notice. That's when you know you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. We've been on for 5.5 hours, and I'm probably not going to be able to stand because I've been sitting for 5.5 hours. Yeah. I'm going to have to crawl out of my chair, but it's okay. Yeah. I'm having fun.
All right.
Yes. Thanks you so much, Steve. I'll catch you soon. Mwah. Right. Love you. Bye. Bye-bye.